This is Distance from Center. I'm Horton, that is.
Trent Vindelson.
We are very sad to do a show today about the passing of Dave Goode. On January 15, Dave had an accident in his private plane, and we lost really one of the disruptors, one of the captains of industry in the sport of water skiing, and we're here to spend a few moments talking about him. Trent?
Yeah, so full disclosure, I mean, we tried to film this thing probably, 3 or 4 times over the last 2 weeks, and it was just a little too raw. It was going to be, I wasn't going to be able to sit down and talk about it just, on a personal level, just a very, very good friend. And I won't spend too much time on that because I probably won't do too well trying to talk about it, but that sentiment is going, it's being echoed, industry wide. I think, if you don't know all the workings of the industry or know Dave and his wife Dawn super well, I mean, people would be surprised to know that. I mean, I think in the last 20 years, I bet you I could count on 2 hands how many tournaments I personally attended, and that 1 or 2 or both of them weren't there. They were literally at every tournament. Pro events, amateur events, world championships, senior world championships. I mean, they were the face of their brand, but they were, they genuinely love water skiing, love water skiers. We'll kind of circle back to that. But John, I know you know the history of you talked about him being a disruptor, and I like that. I never really heard that term as you're using it before. He was he charged forward aggressively and bravely, and in terms of design theory and material usage, and so touch on that for a bit, John.
Well, you gotta step back all the way to 1994. David had a couple of skis come out previously that nobody kind of remembers them. I mean, I've seen them, but in '94 he came out with the 9100, and it was the first successful. It was all pre-preg, which to those of you who don't know the lingo, it's really a higher tech carbon fiber, but it was really also the very first all carbon fiber core ski, and I think it might even be the first ski with a machined core. And again, if you don't know the intricacies of the water ski manufacturing, you just got to understand at that time it was crazy cutting edge.
Yeah.
And as
not a carbon core. Sorry to interrupt, like just so you don't get piled on your own website by
Thank
somebody.
You. Right. But it was the first time they'd machined a core out of. I think those 9100s were PVC, but I don't think they were polyurethane. So compared to the rest of the industry, it was crazy talk. It was, I don't know if using Tesla as an example, because there were other electric cars, but I mean, Tesla's the first car to come out and be really electric and kill it. Dave Goode showed up with his all carbon exterior machine core ski, and the rest of the industry was like, the heck?
Yeah. And
the skis cost $900 when other skis cost, I don't know, $450, $550.
Yeah, that's probably accurate.
And fast forward to today, every ski in the industry has maybe not exactly in the same process, but they've followed Dave's lead. All the skis now are light. They're all PVC or similar core. He changed the industry. He pushed the industry forward radically with the 9100.
He did. Yep. And you're right. He ushered in a new just a new era of ski manufacturing. And you're exactly right. He was the first to do a full carbon, and at the time, the narrative was, I remember I was a kid, and it was you don't need carbon. You don't need carbon on a water ski. And B, you don't need to be paying $1,000 for a ski either. And that's just like all truly amazing innovators. It was momentarily met with resistance, and then it became, like you said, industry norm soon thereafter.
Right. Well, and it should be noted that soon after the release of that ski, Jeff Rogers was the first man to run 39 off on that ski. And actually, before Rogers did that, Christy Overton ran a world record all within a couple of years of the ski being released. So it was not only revolutionary, it was successful at that end, and it was marketed really aggressively. It was the biggest thing for a long time. It was the ski company came from nowhere to huge instantly and changed our world. And I think, from an industry perspective, that's Dave's legacy. And
yes, from design theory, yes, and and kind of like what I was touching on at the start with, like that alone just isn't his legacy,
right.
Just the work he did behind the scenes, like right. He has been the title sponsor for U.S. Nationals for, I'm going to say 10 years, maybe it's been longer. Just the support system that they offered right. for, and not even necessarily just for individual athletes, but just for the sport as a whole, man. I mean, Dave and Don are, they are just such a integral, co-figure for this sport. Like it's absolutely devastating, and it's just going to be it's going to be I don't want to say a sad season, but it's just going to be a different look on this season. I'm interested to see. I hope they have a really strong presence at nationals again, and I hope that with Dave's passing that we don't lose. We don't lose the presence of the company and of Dawn herself.
No, I'm sure there's a plan in place. So moving on, kind of talking about Dave's legacy is, if you look at the world standings list and you look at the top 10 or 20 skiers in the world, if you pick through that list, at least half of those men's skiers' careers were touched and impacted by Dave personally or Dave's product.
Yeah, I was wondering where you're going with that. Yes, no, dude, you're 100% right. And that's maybe something that a lot of people don't realize about the industry too is, not to say that, all the skis are the same, because the design theories, they go out into a whole bunch of, opposing directions at times. But you're right. Look at Will Asher at one point had a collaborative, relationship with Dave, and then Will went to Herb O'Brien at HO, then ultimately Dave Wingarder at HO, and then
right.
Chris Rossi at the exact same time. He had a collaborative relationship with Dave Goode, and he went on to Herb O'Brien at Radar, and ultimately Brooks Wilson. So it's there's all these converging paths of all of the major designers in our industry today. At one point their paths have crossed before they went in their own direction. So,
and and the list goes on with important people. I mean, you got to talk about Chris Parrish in that list. He's not a ski designer, but one of the greatest skiers of our time. Yep. Deeply impacted Nick Parsons.
Nick Parsons. Again, one of the most influential ski designers in the last 10 years. He spent a lot of time with Dave and Don, and now he's over with D3. So it's and then back to on a personal level for all of us. I mean, this is a small industry, and even though we're not all in the same camp, we're all in the same camp. We've
right.
all it's a tight little family, I guess, and he's gonna be missed, man. It's been a tough 2 weeks for the entire industry. It's a bad one.
So, on a personal note, you got to realize Dave leaves behind not just a wife, but children and I believe grandchildren.
Absolutely.
And a huge impact there in Ogden, Utah. And we forget we know Dave as the water ski guy, but really his impact in the snow ski, pole industry, and ski industry is probably equal.
Yeah. No, you're right. And and I maybe inappropriately was smiling a little bit when you had mentioned his grandchildren, but it's only because I was thinking, I've got 2 young children, and when each of them were born, it wasn't very long after their births that that Dave and Don reached out, and they were always quick to ask about my kids, and they've just been a big supporter of me personally, and this, and my sentiment is just ringing thousands and thousands of times over and over and over these last 2 weeks. Everyone felt the same. So we're gonna miss him, and we're thinking about Don.
I agree. All right, folks.
Thanks, you guys. Sad one, but we'll be back shortly. We'll see you all next week.
Thank you, Trent.